Greetings all, it's a pleasure to be back amongst you. I have an engaging and novel narrative to share. Are you prepared? Let's dive in. She made her debut on the first day, donning a badge emblazoned with our company logo, accompanied by a smile that didn't seek permission. As HR, she had a clean workspace and office adjoining the elevators. Upon arrival, Mark personally escorted her, hand on her back, talking audibly for all to hear, asserting this would foster a tighter work culture, emphasizing family within the company was vital. By the close of the initial week, everyone knew her by name. She conducted one interview after another, reserved conference rooms, and drew people into sidelines chats. Engineers, known for detesting meetings, worked late at her behest. From my office, I observed the extended hours of activity. At home, the transformation was swift. She no longer waited for me to end calls, ate earlier, bathed alone. When I joined her in bed, she adjusted, already facing the wall. 1. I'm drained, not tonight. 2. After 2 weeks, Mark began CCing her on threads that used to be exclusively for me. Discussions about strategy, finance, and late-night messages. She responded swiftly, quicker than I did. At work, she ceased popping into my office. She walked past with a phone to her ear, whispering, seeming amused by something I couldn't hear. During meetings, she sat next to Mark instead of across from me, exchanging glances when important decisions were made. I observed this without anyone else noticing. The night prolonged. When she returned home after 10 p.m., her keys echoed loudly and her energy was sharp. She gave me a customary kiss on the cheek and went straight to the shower. Steam and humming filled the bathroom. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while her phone buzzed on the dresser. A month after she joined, I recognized that I wasn't losing her at home. Instead, I was losing her within my own company. The late nights began gradually, starting with 1 night a week and then 2. She informed me that interviews ran long, candidates were anxious, and it mattered that she stayed. I didn't press the issue. Her arriving schedule had been as familiar to me as my own. The initial late arrival past 10 p.m. on the first night found me hearing her keys prior to sighting her, taken aback by her brisk strides with no sign of exhaustion. Instead, she entered like an arrival rather than a collapse. Her coat remained as she spoke into her phone, tone low yet brimming with excitement. The call ended before she noticed my presence. A peck on the cheek and a quick remark about needing the shower followed. The bathroom light flicked on, water running. I remained on the couch, observing her bag on the floor pulse once, then twice. This became habitual, her car arriving late within a specific time frame, her entry vigilant with straight shoulders and shining eyes. One evening, I inquired about her day's events. I kept it casual, assuming a typical response would follow. She replied it was challenging but productive while offering a smile to the wall behind me. Her smile lingered after she looked away. In bed, she turned away before I could reach her. The usual phrase again, exhausted, not tonight. Her phone brightened the nightstand once more before she flipped it over. At the office the next day, I spotted her before she noticed me. She strolled across the floor, laughing, carrying coffee, walking with Mark. He leaned close while they conversed. She nodded without slowing down. I watched them vanish into the conference wing as my calendar filled with reminders. That evening, when she came home late once more, the atmosphere remained unchanged. And that was the moment it ceased feeling like a chore keeping her away. She stopped involving me. It didn't happen in one dramatic shift. It manifested in absences, decisions already taken, changes already implemented. One morning, I found a new car in her usual spot in the garage, still bearing the dealer's plate. I stood there for longer than necessary. When she descended the stairs, phone in hand. She didn't seem surprised. She informed me about a favorable offer and revealed that the previous item was faulty. Without giving me a chance to respond, she took her bag and departed. Later at work, an expensive charge notification surfaced on our shared account related to a leadership program spanning multiple weeks, which I hadn't been told about. The provider's name and start date were visible, with no prior mention from her. In the evening, I inquired as to why she hadn't disclosed this information. She paid no heed, continuing to scroll, and responded by stating that she was capable of making her own decisions, implying potential disapproval if I had a problem with it. The tone she used was casual, bordering on indifference. She passed me by without responding when I didn't immediately answer. Her vocabulary began to shift, using terms like alignment, momentum, and growth lanes in meetings, emails, and at home. These were the same phrases her colleague, Mark, used when presenting ideas to the board. One evening during dinner, she recited one of his phrases verbatim, mirroring his cadence and pause. When I pointed out this oddity, she remained unfazed, focusing on her phone as if nothing unusual had occurred. The following day at the office, I observed Mark utter that identical phrase to the team. Before others did, she nodded. By week's end, decisions once mine were broadcasted post-decision. My name remained on the organizational chart, but my authority didn't. She navigated the office as if it were her domain. Meanwhile, I found myself excusing myself from meetings that no longer required my presence. Each night she returned home later, beaming at messages I couldn't see and using a voice I could no longer hear. I reluctantly revisited the office late one evening, retrieving my forgotten laptop after a client call. It wasn't pressing, yet I didn't inform her of my plans. She showed no interest in my whereabouts. The car park was sparsely populated. Her vehicle remained. In the empty building, quietness dominated except for the conference rooms at the end, bathed in light from a solitary room. I unconsciously decelerated, peering through the glass wall before reaching the door. Prior to my arrival, everything within was visible. The only active space was the conference room, illuminated by solitary light. They faced each other at a lengthy table with her laptop situated between them. Mark reclined in his chair, conversing while she chuckled. The laugh, genuine and amused, similar to one she once bestowed upon me. Their chairs were near enough for their knees to almost brush. Mark leaned towards her, tapping the screen with his digit. His finger lingered longer than required. She didn't withdraw her hand. She tilted her head, attentive, grinning, gazing into his eyes rather than the screen. He continued talking. She chuckled again and lightly touched his wrist as if it were insignificant. I remained concealed in the hallway's shadow, unnoticed by them. No one glanced towards the glass. They existed within their own moment, isolated. For a brief spell, nothing stirred except her hand resting beside his. Then Mark rose and ambled around the table. He peered over her shoulder at the screen, close enough to be intrusive. She remained stationary. I restrained myself from advancing or announcing my presence. I hadn't knocked. Instead, I retraced my steps down the corridor without my laptop. Last Thursday night, she mentioned she needed to pack. A HR conference out of town, she said, lasting 2 days, involving networking and panels. She spoke while sorting clothes on the bed, moving swiftly with her phone buzzing nearby. I gave her a forgotten charger, which she accepted without looking up. The following morning, she kissed me at the door as if it were routine, rolling her suitcase out as if in practice. Her car left before I finished my coffee. On Saturday evening, unplanned, I passed by the office. I needed a document from my desk. The parking lot was nearly empty, but her car was there. Parking further back, I entered the building, finding it eerily quiet. The only illumination came from Mark's office at the end of the hall with partially closed blinds. Voices inside, low and familiar, followed by laughter. I chose not to knock. Instead, I walked away in reverse direction. Footsteps of my shoes echoing on the floor. In the car, I sat with the engine silenced. Her location indicated she remained within town. The photographs she had sent earlier were tidy, commonplace. Hotel lobby, name badge, selfie with a smile. I perused briefly and ceased. She returned home Sunday night and shared tales of her hectic day. Claimed exhaustion, promised a shower and rest. I watched as she organized garments left unused. On Monday morning, I chauffeured her to work. She discussed the upcoming quarter as if nothing unusual had transpired. Unaware that I had already glimpsed where she opted to dwell, I chose not to confront her. Monday morning, she entered the kitchen cheerful and chatty, displaying photos on her phone. Hotel name badge, ballroom, smiling strangers. She extended the screen in my direction. I acknowledged it appeared busy. She visibly relaxed, as if she had successfully completed a test she believed she was taking solo. At work, I ceased to rectify matters not allocated to me. When Mark overlooked details during meetings, I allowed them to go unchecked. When deliberations halted, I refrained from intervening. Instead, I delegated tasks rather than completing them myself. People accepted this silently. In the middle of the day, I went out for lunch and made a phone call from my car. The conversation was with a lawyer. It was brief, neither loud nor accusatory. We discussed documents, timelines, and peaceful solutions. At home, I altered my daily schedule. I began returning home late, claiming a work issue had prolonged. I spent nights on the couch with my laptop open beside me. She didn't object. She barely acknowledged it. She started securing her phone more frequently. She started taking her shower immediately upon arriving home. I stopped inquiring. I ceased waiting for her to finish speaking before continuing. During the week, I systematically cleared drawers in my office, then another one by one. Boxes were placed in my trunk without haste or notice. On Friday evening, she mentioned she might work late again. I encouraged her to take all the time she needed. She left without looking back. Alone in the living room, I signed the first batch of papers and placed them neatly in a folder. The house remained silent, her half of the bed untouched. By week's end, significant events were set in motion, though she was unaware. 2 weeks later, I timed my departure to coincide with her work hours. I collected only essential items, items from the back of the closet, laptop, documents, nothing from shared spaces that could delay me. I loaded the trunk during midday when the street was quiet and passers-by paid no mind. I didn't leave a note. By evening, she returned home to find the house disrupted, my shoes missing, my jacket absent from its hook, an empty drawer where mine had been. My phone buzzed with messages while I was on the highway, inquiries about my whereabouts and well-being. I allowed them to ring unanswered. I checked into a hotel 2 hours distant, using my name for the reservation, 1 bed, a neutral room. I turned off my phone and sat on the edge of the mattress. That night, messages piled up. Where are you? Are you all right? Please respond. The tone escalated swiftly. The following day at work, I didn't appear. Prior to dawn, I had submitted an emergency leave request through HR. Mark contacted me around midday, but I did not answer. By the third day, she was unraveling. She came to our house and left again. She arrived late at work and stayed beyond usual hours. Her security log indicated activity during unusual times. She reached out to my friends, my sister, hospitals. Everyone was puzzled as no one had answers. I remained silent. On the fourth night, her calls stopped. Messages became brief once more, controlled, as if she were trying to reestablish the situation while being unaware of my position. I did not reply. The silence between us grew thicker by the hour, and for the first time, she was the one waiting. On the fifth day, without prior notice, I returned to the office. The team meeting was ongoing when I entered. People were in the middle of speaking when I opened the door. Chairs moved, heads turned. My wife remained frozen where she stood near the wall. Mark stopped talking. I took my seat as if I had never left. No explanations were given. No apology tour. I gave a subtle nod when people looked at me. The gathering persisted, uneasy initially. However, it smoothed over once they understood my intentions weren't to create a spectacle. Eventually, I announced that I was withdrawing from daily affairs due to personal matters. I indicated Mark would take charge going forward. Applause ensued, followed by a few words of congratulations for him. My wife attempted to catch my gaze. I chose not to return it. That night, she arrived home earlier than usual. The house lights were on when she entered. I was seated on the couch. 2 suitcases stood near the door. A file lay on the table. She paused mid-step. She picked up the papers. Divorce documents already completed and dated were what she found. She inquired about them. Her voice remained steady until the last syllable. I informed her she didn't need to provide an explanation. I told her I was already aware. When she attempted to speak, I raised my hand once. She fell silent. I mentioned that I had seen her car at the office on Saturday. I reminded her she wasn't attending any conference. The room remained unchanged. She settled down gradually as if the floor had moved beneath her feet. The quiet persisted until she ran out of words. That night she didn't rest. Her phone clung to her hand while she wandered around the living room, scrolling, typing, pausing, resuming her typing. She fired off messages to Mark without uttering them aloud. Initially brief, then prolonged, eventually voice notes that she erased before sending. He remained unresponsive. By morning, she was seated at the kitchen table in the same attire, phone charging. Her gaze was fixed on the screen, her eyes locked onto it. She repeatedly refreshed his profile. No updates, no replies, no missed calls. Around midday, her breathing altered, rapid, shallow breaths. Without a word, she pointed the phone towards me. A photo had surfaced in her feed, posted by a mutual acquaintance. Mark was in the picture, his arm around a woman. 2 children nestled against them, grinning. The caption spoke of a decade together. Family, affection, home. The timestamp indicated it was uploaded yesterday. She examined his wife's social media profile, discovering wedding pictures, shared last name, identical smile, but a different location. A collection of years' worth of images neatly organized behind it. Her hands trembled as she navigated through them. She looked for herself and him, but found nothing. She called him again, only to reach his voicemail. An unread message was her response. Persistent, she tried once more, only to find the phone locked. It fell from her grasp, hitting the floor. She remained still, fixated on the screen, hoping it would somehow alter if she didn't blink. She uttered his name softly, but there was no reply. That afternoon, she left the house without informing me of her destination. Upon her return, her eyes were bloodshot and dry simultaneously. She said nothing, asked nothing. The truth had reached her independently, and it continued to unfold. The divorce proceeded swiftly. She showed no resistance, made no demands for amendments. She simply signed where the attorney indicated, and calmly slid the papers back across the table. After completing her tasks, she rose initially and departed without glancing at me. She strived to maintain her position. For several weeks, she resumed attending the office early and leaving late, yet the pace felt disjointed now. Mark omitted including her in meetings. Emails no longer involved her. Responsibilities previously hers were reassigned without notice. One day earlier than usual, she returned home and laid her badge on the counter. She mentioned a reorganization had occurred. Her position was terminated. HR remained courteous. Final payment received. Access rescinded. On her final day, she carried a box to the car. I observed from the window as she swiped her badge at the exit and the system failed to respond. A guard intervened. She nodded, ashamed, and maneuvered to the side door. Mark did not appear. That evening, she perched on the edge of the bed that no longer belonged to her and composed a message. She pondered it for a considerable period before sending it. 3 days later, I responded with a single line. No words remained to be spoken. In the morning, I gathered my remaining belongings. I placed the keys on the counter before departing and shutting the door. I did not verify if she was observing. The office dimmed as I withdrew. The dwelling remained peaceful and I declined to look back. If you're still present, thank you. Now it's your turn. Express your sentiments in the comments below. Subscribe for additional unspoken narratives forthcoming.